2 minutes. Okay, let me make sure that it is streaming. If there's anybody who sees me, holler. First of all, let me make sure that it is streaming to Facebook. Hello, anybody in Facebook? Please write a message so that I can know that it is streaming. The show is going to start in 2 minutes. I just want to make sure that it is broadcasting. Wait, hold on. Rachel, can you write hey again? Yes, excellent. It's streaming there. Hello, the corner plot. You are there on YouTube. If there's anybody in Twitch, holla! Though I know for some reason Twitch often does not see me. If you are on Twitch and you do not see me and you want to take part in and enjoy the Coronacast comedy show, which starts in 2 minutes, then what you got to do is come over to Facebook or come over to YouTube and search for the username Deliso Chaponda. Hello, people. The show is going to start in 1 minute when it hits 9 o'clock GMT. How are you all doing? Hello to Daniel E. Obuntorokondo. Where is that name from? Lovely name. Okay, excellent. What else do we have here? We've got Thais back. Thais is back, and I continue to butcher her name, I'm sure. Hello, John Keane. Hello, Maria T. Limongi. Good to have you here. Are you Malawian? That sounds vaguely Malawian. Well, if you are my country sister, hello. And if you are not, hello to as well. Excellent. Good. Hello, Prime fellas. Okay, the show is about to start. I'll take a drink, and then we will get started. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Coronacast comedy show, episode 17 or something. I can't believe I've been doing it this long. It's either 16 or 17. This, if it's your first time, is a stand-up comedy show, half stand-up, half talk show, which I am doing every day. Before the coronavirus, I was a comedian in comedy clubs, performing to a few hundred people every day. Since Corona, my crowd is just my flat. So I do this show every day at the time when I'd usually be on stage to make the world laugh. It's what I am here for. I hope you enjoy it. Today's is a very interesting episode. The first half of the episode, I am going to talk about mental health. Now, do not worry. I'm not going to make fun of people with mental disabilities. I'm not going to preach. This isn't a public service announcement kind of show. No, I'm going to talk about mental health. I'm going to make a few jokes and just sort of see how we are coping with our mental health while under lockdown, while under isolation, while filled with fears of Corona. That'll be the first half. Then there will be a short interval in which I will chat. I will chat to people in the chat room. So if I ignore you in the first half, that is why, because I'm just doing my jokes. If you have any questions, please put many questions before them, and then I will answer the questions. And then the second half is jokes from audience suggestions. Over the course of the day, people on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram sent their suggestions, and I do jokes to order based on whatever weird suggestions my fans have given me. With further ado, let's get started. And let's talk about mental health. Okay, let's talk about mental health. Now, the first thing I think it's important to say is I am not talking about insanity, right? I'm not talking about people who need to be on medication. I'm not talking about people who need to be, sectioned. I'm talking about individual mental health while people are under lockdown, while people are in isolation due to the coronavirus, plus also just the strains of stressing about, will this end? Worrying about the health of people in your life who are vulnerable, worrying about if you're ever going to earn money again, that kind of mental health. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So it got me thinking, right? It got me thinking about how am I doing? How am I coping? Right? I don't know how you are coping, but I've realized part of my problem is I am bored, right? It's my biggest thing. I am bored every day. Like every morning I wake up to the same routine. I am a comedian. You don't know how my entire life has been an escape from being bored and having every day being the same. So that's the first thing. But then part of the other problem is you can't really complain to anybody about being bored or being lonely, because one, they're not interesting problems, but also everybody is going through it at the same time. And people always say, oh, if other people are going through it too, doesn't it make you feel better? No, it doesn't, because then you can't complain. It's great when you're having a problem which no one else is having, because when you call your friends and you say, this is what's going on, they say, oh, I'm so sorry, and they offer some support. But if it's the same stuff they're going to, they're just like, screw you, I'm going through it too. So I think part of the problem is there's no one to complain to, right? I almost need to have a few friends who are totally isolated, who are living their old lives as they used to, who I can call and complain to about the current state of being, right? And then I also started thinking that when is it a problem? That's always the question, right? We're all lonely, we're all feeling isolated, we're all bored. But when is it a problem? When must you worry? So, now I don't know if any of you used to watch David Letterman, the Late Show with David Letterman. Years ago, they used to do, when he was still the host, they used to do top 10 lists, right? So what I have done is I have resurrected that tradition just for this episode. I have resurrected a top 10 list so that you can ask yourself, am I doing okay, or do I actually have a problem? Okay? So these are the top 10 reasons to start worrying about your mental health. If you recently started using a Ouija board, not because you wanted to communicate with the dead, you just wanted a spirit to haunt your house so you don't feel so bad. Number 2, if when you used the Ouija board, it moved your hand to the letters A, L, O, N, E. If that happened, you might have a problem. Number 3, if you have stopped talking to yourself and now you are talking to yourselves, you might have a problem. Number 4, if you find yourself starting to forgive exes who broke your heart because you want to just have someone to talk to and you're giving them calls, and you find yourself saying, well, I guess she did cheat on me, but it was a hard time, and I guess she only did cheat on me the 6 times, and I guess my brother's a good-looking fellow. If you're making such excuses, you might have a problem. Number 5, if you're a man and you've noticed that your palms are now tougher than leather, you might have a problem. Number 6, if you are a woman and you have spontaneously developed carpal tunnel in your wrists, you might have a problem. Number 7, if you have wrung every single Facebook friend you have, and now you are checking your old MySpace account, you might have a problem. Number 8, you are allergic to cats but thinking of buying one, then you might have a problem. Number 9, you started ticking off the days on your wall and crossing them off day by day, you might have a problem. And number 10, if you just had a wet dream about shaking somebody's hand, you might have a problem. So, now that we know of my viewers, which of you has a problem, which one doesn't? I just saw Nabil commented, Nabil, who's a comedian, commented that I am promoting voodoo. Yes, I am promoting voodoo. But let us move on to where can we draw inspiration for people who have coped with isolation very well, right? So one of the first things I decided to do is I looked back over some literary classics, right? Books which I've read, which feature people who are in isolation, and what are the tips we can glean. So the first one I will start with is actually Robinson Crusoe, right? Robinson Crusoe, brilliant book. You might not all have heard it, but essentially he was the original castaway, right? Long before Tom Hanks was yelling at Wilson, Robinson Crusoe was stuck on a desert island, and he survived. He survived. He kept his sanity. And these are a few tips, okay? Number one thing which he did is he rediscovered his favorite book, the Bible. Okay, now, look, I hate to say this, man, but I don't believe it. The Bible is nobody's favorite book. It's nobody's favorite book. I'm religious, and I'm just telling you, it's nobody's favorite book, right? It's not like that. Like, it's full of wonderful messages and inspiring tales, but it's not a page turner. I can tell you the Bible is not even the Pope's favorite book. Robinson, you're lying. He didn't actually get marooned with the Bible. He probably got marooned with, letters to Penthouse, and he didn't want anyone to know. So in writing the book, he said it was actually the Bible. It wasn't the Bible, man. It's nobody's favorite book. But yes, we learned that reading is a great way to divert your attention, right? It's something that takes you away from where you are. I'm currently reading a wonderful book called The Starless Sea. Brilliant book. Reading is a great way to cope. Okay, tip number 2. Robinson Crusoe, during the book, he taught himself how to cook. He taught himself how to sew. Now, look, you don't actually need to teach yourself how to cook, right? Because in the UK, I don't know in other places, but in the UK, they're still delivering, right? So just teach yourself how to order delivery. And as for sewing and pottery, he also taught himself pottery. They're still delivering. You can order clothes from Amazon, right? You can order pots from Amazon. You don't need to teach yourself that. But the third thing was he taught himself how to make weapons, right? In case he had to defend himself. Now, you don't have to start trying to teach yourself to make weapons. Just use the stuff you order on Amazon as weapons. Order the food orders. So if people start attacking you, throw a pizza box at them, right? Throw one of the new scarves which you got off Amazon at them. Throw a pot at them. Done. And the third way that Robinson Crusoe survived on the island is he made friends with a cannibal. Now, this is harder to do than you might imagine. This is very difficult to do because the cannibals are a very private lot. They're not very proud of their lifestyle, but you can find a cannibal, right? Also, find the cannibal, make sure they don't eat you, make friends with them. Maybe they'll help you survive. So those are the 3 tips which we have gleaned from Robinson Crusoe. Second, another person who survived a long time in isolation is the central character of the book, The Martian. This was also made into a movie with Matt Damon for the ladies in the audience. You can watch it, but I recommend the book. It's a very good book. I have not watched the movie, right? And he survived. He did a number of things, like he made a plant farm. So he was stranded on Mars, and he survived by making a plant farm. He grew potatoes. He grew his own food. Now, the only problem is I live in the UK. It's not a lot of space. Like, my balcony is 1 meter. I can't grow loads of plants out there. Maybe I could grow 2 potatoes. So I don't think I can use his advice, right? And then the second one is he had a spacesuit. The spacesuit gave him oxygen. It had it had something which could, recycle urine. He had a spacesuit. Spacesuit got him through it. And coronavirus, I think a spacesuit would help, right? Forget about just covering your face. If I start rolling like an astronaut, Corona's not cutting me. So I think what I need to do is I need to order a spacesuit. I don't know how. Maybe NASA has some leftovers, but that's the tip we have learned from The Martian. And the third person who I'm going to talk about in literature who dealt with isolation very well is Edmond Dantes, otherwise known as the Count of Monte Cristo. If you're not aware of this person's story, he was framed by some of his friends and he ended up in prison for many, many years, right? Many, many years. He was stuck in prison. How did he survive? Did a few things. These are tips we can all learn from. Number 1, he dug a tunnel. Yes, the same thing that Andrew Dufresne did to keep himself sane. If it worked for Edmond Dantes and it worked for Andy Dufresne, I think it works for all of us. Wherever you're living, start digging a tunnel, right? I've started a tunnel, right? I'm digging my way out of my flat. I don't know where I'm going, but it helps, man. Just start digging, okay? Now, if you're married, your wife or your husband may get a little worried, be like, why are you digging? And just say, I'm digging to keep her sane. Get her involved, man. Okay. Second tip, Count of Monte Cristo, right? He befriended a person who knew where treasure was buried, right? Somebody who knew where there was secret treasure. And this person told him where the treasure was, and it kept him alive, thinking of dreaming of going there and that treasure. Now, it's like trying to find a cannibal. I don't know where you're going to find somebody who knows where treasure is, but trust me, if you find someone who knows where treasure is, it'll help you get through this coronavirus, because you'll be thinking, when it's over, I'm going to go dig up the treasure. So good luck on that. I'm still looking. There's someone online who says he knows how to get me lots of Bitcoin, right? So maybe if I follow him, he will inspire me. And the third tip from the Count of Monte Cristo is he dreamt of revenge. This was the biggest thing which got him through the years of isolation. The people who stitched him up, the people who got him thrown in prison, right? He dreamt every day of the way he was going to have revenge on them. And that purpose got him through it. Now, fortunately, coronavirus is not a person. You cannot dream of having revenge on the coronavirus. But at the same time, it doesn't matter who you choose. You just need to choose somebody who has wronged you, and you need to build plans to destroy them every day. So I chose, like when I was around 11 years old, right? I remember at school, there was Valentine's Day, every morning of Valentine's Day, people used to leave their cards in a box, and then in the morning they would be passed out to everybody, right? And I remember, I didn't expect one. I wasn't one of those popular kids, right? But there was one Valentine's Day when I got a card, right? They passed it around in class. I got a card. I was so excited. I opened the card and it said, "This is for you because no one will ever send you one." And I heard a bunch of girls giggling who had sent me that. And I was like, "Andrea, I will be revenged on you. I am spending every day in my isolation plotting my revenge from this slight when I was 11 years old." It may be 29 later, but it may be 29 years later, but it's never too late for vengeance. Vengeance shall be mine, Andrea. So pick a person who has wronged you, person who said the wrong thing, looked at you the wrong way. Plan your revenge. These are not my suggestions. These are suggestions from great literature. Okay, let us move on. Let us move on to who else has been in isolation a lot, who can teach us some things. So prisoners, right? Prisoners who get put in isolation. How do they keep sane, right? They said first thing they do is a lot of people go mad, get really depressed in isolation. But the people who survive, there are a few tips which they have. One of the people, this person had been on stretches for 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes for months in isolation, where you're in the hole alone, right? He said the first tip is get control of your space, right? So he said, even though they've thrown you into this filthy hole, clean it, put it into order, try to create some kind of sense of purse. And I started asking myself, have I done that with my flat? Well, my flat isn't super dirty, but at the same time, because of this show, I ordered lighting, right? I ordered lights, and online the lights looked very small. They are gigantic. Now my living room is pretty much just gigantic lights. I have gigantic lights everywhere. I have lost control of my living area because of you. I hope you appreciate it, because every day as I go to breakfast, I have to creep around the gigantic lights. My place looks like a studio. If I brought a woman here, she'd think it was a porn set. Next. He kept saying, the prisoner in isolation, by singing to himself, right? He sang songs to himself. So just start singing to yourself. Now look, this is helpful to people like me who are all alone, right? If you are in isolation with your wife, maybe don't do this. If you're in isolation with your wife, you just start singing, she may whack you on the head. Especially if you can't sing. If you're Celine Dion, sing away. And the third tip was this person suggested making up poems in your head, right? Making up poems in your head. He tried to think back of all of his memories and he tried to capture them in 3 sentences, right? So look through your memories, try to I don't fully understand. I don't have a joke for that. I just thought it was very interesting. He just told poems in his head. Okay, so that's the advice from prisoners. Now let us talk to the common effects on the mind of pandemics, because there have been pandemics in the past. There have been the Spanish flu, there have been the Black Death, and there have been loads of pandemics in the past. People have been in isolation, people have been stressed. Psychiatrists have analyzed these situations and they can tell us what to expect. So I am going to go through all of the common effects of being in a pandemic, and I'm going to wonder whether I am going through this sign. So number 1, there's often a strengthening of one's traditions and fundamental beliefs. So people who are religious become more religious. People who are atheists become more atheists. Whatever you are, you become more of that. You cling to it more. Whatever you believe in becomes more. So let me apply this to myself. Am I more fundamental? Well, I'm religious. Am I more religious? I don't think so, but look at my behavior. It's like I've taken a vow of silence. It's like I've taken a vow of celibacy. These are not intentional, but hell, I clearly am more religious. Second one, right? Increased alcohol drinking, right? This happens a lot. Increased alcohol drinking. Now, I don't drink alcohol, so this doesn't necessarily apply to me, but I've been drinking a lot of coffee. Next one. Oh, you can play along to yourself. You can ask yourself whether this is happening to you. A constant need to try and maintain your self-esteem. And I ask myself, have I been having an increased need to maintain my self-esteem? It's not like I've been going online every day and asking a bunch of people in the audience to say LOL and tell me I'm funny. Next one is an increased fighting against things which threaten your culture and your traditions. So example, this is why racism goes up. Anything which strengthens, let me summarize. So the first thing I said is that people become more fundamental, but they also become more angry at people who challenge their beliefs. Now, this hasn't actually happened to me yet, I think, but it's possible. It's possible. I don't think I'm a bigot, but we're in month number 1. Month number 3, I might just start coming on and my jokes will be totally unexpected. I'll just be saying, hey, they should all go back where they came from and stuff. So far, so good, but it might happen. Well, it's only on month 1. So those are the signs. But interestingly, psychiatrists have also found a lot of positives that happen, right? So the first one is people increase creativity, right? Now, this definitely applies to me. I've written more jokes in the last 14 days than I've written in some years, right? Like my general output is I write like maybe 2 hours of jokes a year. I've done more than that. Now, they weren't all good jokes, but I'm very productive. Then they say that people become generous to others. There's an increased generousness to other people. Now, I probably would be more generous to others if I saw any other people. The third one is people often see positive health changes because people will start exercising, people start looking at their diet more, and I have been doing that, right? In fact, now that I start looking at it, I'm more productive, I'm eating healthy, maybe I'll miss Corona when it's gone. Next, right, we are going to go to actual tips, right? I've been a bit silly in talking about prisoner tips and isolation in literature. Let me just briefly, before we move on to the next section, talk about actual tips. So these aren't jokes, these are actual tips which do help anybody who is struggling in their isolation. Tip number 1 is find a routine, make a routine, right? Don't just live from day to day, right? Even if it's just a routine of at this time I walk around the block, at this time I cook, At this time, I call my mother. Have a routine. It's amazing how routines keep us sane because it just tells you what to look forward to, and it gets you through the next day. Second one, this is serious. These are not jokes. Another thing is stay active. Don't just sit, become a couch potato, right? Go for walks, go for runs. If you're in one of the countries where it's a lockdown, you can't leave your house, just do squats, do little videos, do aerobics, do whatever it takes, right? Keep active, gets your blood pumping. And the last actual tip, of course, is virtual chats. Talk to people, call people. If you have no friends, they're websites, right? They're chat rooms. Just talk to other people. Come on to this show, things like that. Stay alive. Okay, so those were my actual tips. Now, before the break, there is a thing which says comedy special and tips. This is not a routine. It's just that I'm a bad businessman. Every day, I have not been actually promoting myself while I'm doing this show. I'm giving that for free, but what I should be doing is I should also be promoting myself. So please indulge me in a few seconds of actually being a businessman and saying, look, if you enjoy these daily shows, right, I have released 2 comedy specials also on my channel. So on my YouTube channel, which is Deliso Chaponda, or you can just find it if you put in Coronacast Comedy Show, I've released 2 comedy specials. The first one is What the African Said. It's 80 minutes of well-produced comedy. It's not like this. There was a crowd there, right? Very professional. Some of my best comedy, my first comedy tour. The second one, which you can also get, both of these are for free, the second one's called Blah Blah Blacklist. This one I'm releasing weekly. I released episode 1 last week. I released episode 2 today, right? So either way, if you've enjoyed me, please go check out my comedy specials, put comments, share them, because I would like you to share the Coronacast Comedy Show, but you might be like, this is kind of unprofessional. Why would I share something unprofessional to my friends? So share the professional comedy specials. Enjoy them, share them. Thank you. Second thing, tips. If you enjoy the show, I'm happily doing it for the first few months because I've got some savings, but my savings are dwindling. So if any of you want to support this show, enjoying the show, feel free to go up there. If you look at the top of this, there's a link to a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Deliso Chaponda. There's ko-fi.com/Deliso Chaponda, and there is a PayPal, spiltink@hotmail.com. You don't have to put in a lot of money. You can put in £1, you can put in £2. But even if you have no money, still watch. I need an audience. Instead of giving me money, tell a friend to watch the show and you will be paying me too. Okay, so that is that. Now we're in the break. We're in the break where I drink some water and I look at the comments. Let us look at the comments and the questions. Wow, my head looks very big when I lean in. Okay, so what do we have? Is there any volunteer to chat with me to improve my English? Khalid Saeed is looking for somebody to chat with him to to improve his English. People message him if you are willing to be not a pen pal, but a chat pal. Okay, let's move on. Next, we've got Corner Plot has asked, quick question scenario. You are the main character from the last book you read, and you are being hunted by the main character from the last box set you watched. How screwed are you? Okay, the last book which I read was Wolf Hall, okay, and the last box set which I watched, what was the last box? I don't watch box sets. I watched like little episode, but the last episode of television which I watched was The Expanse, right? So Wolf Hall is historical drama, right? And then The Expanse is science fiction, right? So if I'm being hunted by the main character from the book, right, and I'm the main character from the sci-fi, I'm doing so well because he's coming at me with a sword and I can shoot him with my lasers. I'd be totally fine. Okay, that was a complicated question, but it was fun. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Any other questions? Other comments? Okay, Prime Failure says he loves the Count of Monte Cristo movie. It's wonderful. Well, I've not watched the movie, but the book is wonderful, and I imagine the movie is too. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Moorgang says, Delisa, do you want me to donate to you? Only if you have money, right? I am not broke, okay? I'm not broke. I've got savings. So if it's a matter of you don't have a lot of money, I would suggest instead you donate to charities who are helping people who are really, really struggling. But if you're someone who has a little bit of extra income and you want to throw me a pound or two, it's very appreciated. Okay, excellent. Let's keep going. What do we have? I'll do 2 or 3 more and then we'll get back to the show. Greetings from the UK again, says Asvin Anpu. I hope you're having a wonderful day. How do you come up with a joke so fast and funny? Lots and lots of practice. I have been writing jokes since the year 2001, right? I've been writing jokes a long time. It used to be very difficult. I used to struggle. I used to squeeze them out, but the more I did it, the better I got at it. The more I did it. Also, I wasn't just a comedian. I'm a comedy writer. So I used to write jokes for other people. I used to write scripts. I used to write all sorts. So I'm a writer first, and just practice makes anything easier. Excellent. Let us move on to the final things. Voodoo is cool, says John Keane, answering Nabil. Excellent. Nabil is a very funny comedian, by the way. If you want more laughs, just Google Nabil Abdul Rashid and you'll get some good laughs. Okay, excellent. How do I come up with jokes and how do I improve? I write every day and I improve them by rewriting them and practicing. Excellent. Thank you so much for the questions and comments. Thank you so much, people who are my fans. We are now going to go into the second section, which is jokes from audience suggestions. As always, I will do an old joke first to get myself into the rhythm. Those who have not seen this before, you may have seen this joke before, but you've got to understand stand-up comedy, it's a rhythm, right? It's a rhythmic thing, and doing an old joke gets me back into the comic timing, because it's very hard to maintain your comic timing when there is no audience. Also, in this part, if you enjoy the joke, please put LOLs or some kind of indication so that when I'm looking back on it later and I'm trying to figure out which are the good jokes and which are the bad jokes, I have a sense. You don't need to say you didn't like that one because that's unnecessary, but just tell me the ones you liked if I do one you really like. So first we'll start with an old joke. So, I'm religious, as I've mentioned many times, and I grew up Christian. I'm not Christian anymore. I'm a different religion, but I grew up Christian. And I remember we used to have holy water. A lot of people don't realize how amazing holy water is. Do you know how priests make holy water? They get regular water, bless it, bam, holy. If I was a priest, I'd bless everything. I go to McDonald's, order a burger, bless it. Holy cow! Take a dump. Holy shit! Get some tacos. Holy guacamole! And that, my friend, is my old joke to get me into the rhythm. So let us begin at this moment with jokes from suggestions. The first suggestion was by @C_hole. And C_hole would like a joke about oven gloves. Well, I started thinking about it. Oven gloves are gloves, aren't they? So they can protect you from the coronavirus, right? And I actually started thinking about how I don't think people have been creative enough with their gloves and their masks and their sanitizer. So I actually have a request to the audience, a challenge for you, right? I want in the next week you to get creative. I want you to leave your house wearing oven gloves, right? Instead of wearing one of those little masks, which are like a surgical mask, wear like a Halloween mask, right? Wear a Halloween mask of a clown or whatever you can find, Halloween mask and oven mitts. And if you can, take a picture of it and send it to me, right? Because I think people need to be more creative. And for hand sanitizer isn't rare, but there are loads of things which can sanitize you. Vinegar. Just get some kitchen vinegar. Wash your hands with it as you're walking around outside, okay? So that was my little joke for C_hole. Hope you enjoyed it. We move on to the next one, which is @sister_. Colin wants a joke about the GCSEs. Now, the reason for this, of course, is that in the UK, they have announced that they are not going to be exams as such for students, right? The exams have been canceled because of the coronavirus, and instead people are going to be graded on their progress so far, on assignments, and teachers are going to sort of give them an aggregate mark as opposed to it being one exam. Some people may think this is a good thing. This would have hurt me terribly because as a kid, I was one of those kids who was really good at cramming stuff, right? I got extremely good grades when I was younger, but it doesn't mean I was extremely clever. It means that I was just very good at cramming stuff. So during the course of the year, I was a lazy student. I would come to class. I was an idiot, right? I would be making jokes in class. I wasn't a great student. But then 2 weeks before the exam, I would just start reading and I would consume all of the books, vomit them all out onto the page, get like 97%, and then promptly forget all of it. I don't remember any of that stuff. I was just a crammer. So this thing with the corona would have led to me flunking everything, right? So it's going to reward those slow, steady people, but the people who are crammers like me are screwed. I don't know if that's a joke. It's more of, actually, as I told it, I was like, it's not really a joke. It's just a reminiscing. But I do think that it will create a very odd generation, right? Because this is going to be a generation who are going to go to school and go to university without exams, right? They will be like an unexamined generation. And you bet it's going to come up. You bet it's going to come up, whatever job they have, no matter what they say, oh, well, yeah, you might say that, but at least I did my GCSEs. Trust me, we're going to rub it in your faces, young people. Let's go on to the next one. At LJ_DUP wanted a joke about immigration. Now, this is something I could talk about it all the time. I've been an immigrant for all my life, right? I was born a refugee, right? I wasn't even wanted when I came out of the womb, right? Professional immigrant all my life. Now, I've done probably like 800 jokes about immigration over the years. I'm not going to do one of the old ones. I tried to look into how immigration is being affected by the coronavirus. And I found out something very interesting in the UK and England, right? So they've realized because people can't fly necessarily, people might overstay their visas, right? So right now, if the reason you can't leave the country is you're having to overstay your visa, they automatically are adding 1 month extra stay in the UK, right, on your visa. But I also noticed if you happen to be a doctor or a nurse or otherwise work in the National Health Service, they're automatically going to add 1 year to your visa. They're not idiots. They're like, oh my God, this is not the time to chase them out. I can tell you, even the English Defence League, even the British National Party right now is like, immigrants, stay, for the love of God, stay. Indian doctor, yes, please. Muslim doctor, yes, please. I'm telling you, this is the one time when you're not going to get any of these anti-immigrant people attacking foreign doctors and nurses. Also, right now, right, everybody is appreciating doctors and nurses, right? Everybody is, and well-deserved. They're doing a magnificent work. But if you happen to be a doctor, if you happen to be a nurse or work in admin at a hospital or in any way are in the National Health Service, please seize the day, right? Because people have a short memory, right? People are celebrating you now. I guarantee you within 2 months of Corona, they'll be complaining about you again. So right now is the time to apply for everything, right? Apply for everything. If you want a house, apply now. If you want to join some exclusive club, apply now. Trust me, they love you right now. If you have parking tickets and you want to get them canceled, apply now and put at the top, I work for the NHS. They will cancel it. Seize your day. Do it now. Excellent. Let's move on to the next one, which is at Liam_Stufford would like me to talk about slavery, right? Now I'll tell you what the interesting thing about slavery is. It's like, again, I've talked about this subject a lot. So there are loads of jokes I've done. I didn't want to do any of the old ones. So I started looking at slave. Now, one thing I will tell you what's funny is that I'm Malawian, right? I'm Malawian. My ancestors were not slaves, right? My ancestors, we were oppressed in different ways by the British, but we were not slaves. So I always find it funny because people often will say things to me like, oh, why can't you get off the fact that your ancestors were slaves? I'm like, my ancestors weren't slaves, right? You screwed us in a different way. I'm just as angry at you, but for different reasons. And out of solidarity, I'm angry at the people who you enslaved. But I'm not angry for the slavery. My ancestors were fast runners. You couldn't catch them. Oh, Lord. The second thing I wanted to say is, the crazy thing is, you always think that slave owners knew they were doing something horrible. I always thought, look, they knew it was wrong, but they were doing it because it was positive. But when you look at it, you realize they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. That's the bit which blows my mind. There's one slave owner. Now, I looked at this picture at the Liverpool Slavery Museum, right? It's come up before in my shows, but I didn't talk about this. There's one picture which I saw in the Liverpool Slavery Museum was a person at a slave. So this was more recent, but there was still like slave plantations way after slavery ended, right? But took a photo, an old black and white photograph of all of his workers, right? He had all of his workers standing, and he had a letter painted on each of them. So it said, Happy Christmas. And he sent this as a postcard. He wasn't ashamed of his slaves. He was so proud of them that he turned them into a Christmas card. This dude is nuts. They actually thought they were doing a good thing. There were some of them who felt, there was one of them who was talking about, he was arguing with someone. I read this and I couldn't believe it, because he was defending owning slaves. Because in America, in the northern states, the people, they had black workers, but they paid them, right? So they weren't loved. They still were being waited on by black people, but at least they paid them, right? And there was an argument between someone northern and someone from the south, and the argument was, oh, you guys are evil because you have slaves. And the slave owner said, no, you're the evil ones, right? Think about it. We love them. We care for them because we own them. You just rent them. Think about it. What do you treat better? A wagon which you are borrowing, or a wagon you own? This bastard thought he was treating them well. More scary than funny, but it still needs to be said. Let us move on to the next one, which is at Airy, at something_Airy wanted a joke about wanted me to make marriage funny. Now, I am not married, right? I am not married. Even though during Corona, I possibly envy it for the first time, right? But I started thinking about, this is what I wanted to talk about. So Malawi is an interesting place, right? And Malawi culturally has moved and is very Western in a number of ways. Now, there is still some arranged marriage, right? But it's not official. It's not the way that most Malawians get married now, right? In fact, most Malawians you meet did it in the Western way. They met someone, they dated, and then they proposed, and then they got married. But there are still a few people who get marriages arranged. In fact, my father was telling me about someone in his village who was looking to get an arranged. So it still happens. But because it's not something that most people do, it is now done half secretly, in that, the parents will know, the person getting married will know, and nobody else is taught. And so there's become this thing where you make speculations about people. You'll hang out with some of your friends and you'll see two of them aren't getting along or something like that, or one of them is not very affectionate with his wife, and you just kind of point at them. You'll say, arranged. And you even disparage people who clearly dated for a while, but if you just are pissy, it's because it was arranged. It was arranged. But I don't know why people knock arranged marriage. Right now, I could use an arranged. No, I got to say, Corona hasn't yet broken down my hatred for marriage. I don't want to get married, but I could use an arranged hookup. That's what I could use. I could use an arranged one-night stand with somebody who is not coughing and has no fever. I should tell my parents to get on it. I'll even pay 2 cows. Let us move on to the next one. Are we still broadcasting? Any comments up there? Yes, I see OMI. Lovely. I'm still broadcasting. Let's go on to the next one, which is at Luke Wade 95 wanted me to talk about death. Now here, it's a very grim subject, but one thing which I found which is fascinating is in Madagascar, okay, they have a ritual. They have a practice called Fama Dihana, right? And this is a tradition in Madagascar where they don't necessarily mourn the dead, right? They celebrate death. So what they do during Fama Dihana is they dig up. Well, they don't dig up. Their family have tombs, so they open the doors of the tombs and they get the remains, right? They get the remains of their dead grandparents and great-grandparents, and then they have a party with them, right? They go outside down the street with them and they have a party. Now, a lot of people find this very morbid. They find it very dark, but I can't help but hope that if I have kids and I die, that every now and then they pull out the Deliso ashes, right? And they just have a party, right? Just start shaking them. Give me a little bit of a celebration. Better to be celebrated than to be mourned. Again, not a joke, but very informative. I've realized today I've not necessarily written jokes as I am maybe giving you an education about different cultures. I enjoy this show, even if you don't. Let's move on to the next one. At Nigerian Prince 915 is back. Okay? Now, those of you who have not been following have not realized what has been going on with the Nigerian Prince. 2 days ago, Nigerian Prince 915 made a request for a joke about UA without explaining what UA was. I didn't know. I wrote a bunch of jokes about things. None of them was what he wanted. He actually meant UA to be Ukraine. He wanted a joke about Ukraine. The next day, he said he wanted a joke about the Ukrainian flag. I did the joke about the Ukrainian flag. He's not happy. Today, he's saying he wants Ukraine again. And I started to wonder, why is this guy so obsessed with Ukraine? And I'm thinking, this guy's in Ukraine, right? This guy's a Nigerian prince in Ukraine, right? And so, curious, because I'm like, there can't be a lot of Nigerian princes in Ukraine. I went to Google and I put in the following search term, and you can check that I fully am not lying. I put in Nigerian prince Ukraine. And you know what came up? This was the number one results. It was a headline. Corruption in Ukraine is so bad a Nigerian prince would be embarrassed. Now we understand why Nigerian prince is so frustrated and is asking me to make jokes about Ukraine. He thought he was good at corruption. He moved to Ukraine. They are better at corruption than him. And he's frustrated, man. They are hardcore. Last few years, their average is every year $12 billion. $12 billion goes missing from the national budget. Wow. They make us all seem like amateurs. People bribe the police. People bribe to get medicines. People bribe to get their kids into kindergarten. Kindergarten teachers need bribery. Wow. Now I really know my ABCs. Well, Nigerian prince, I hope you enjoyed that. Let us move on to the next one, which is at Leo_Hughes 37. Oh, okay. Now this isn't actually a joke, because also I take questions. Leo actually didn't want a joke, but asked for tips to become a comedian. So I give tips every now and then. I'll give a different tip every day, because this often comes up as a question, because there are a lot of burgeoning comedians who watch this stream. And the tip for today is, what was the tip for today? Is read a lot, right? Yesterday I talked about writing every day, but what I would say is read loads of things, different kinds of things. Read the newspaper, read history books, fill your head with ideas and thoughts. That's the biggest thing I can say. The more you have going on in your head, the more you have to access when you need to write a joke. Because you can always tell a comedian who does nothing with their life and sits at home and watches Netflix because all they talk about is what they saw on television and what they ate for breakfast. You need to fill your head with other things. If not your experiences, then the experience of people who've written biographies, people who've written history books. Good luck with your comedy. Okay, let's move on to next joke. Oh, we're almost at the end. At the end of the last suggestion, I will look one more time at the comments. Okay, so at Baktahir, I may have said your name wrong because my eyes are bad, has asked for a joke about relationships. And what I wanted to talk about is, I think, right, that it's interesting when you're in a bad relationship, but when it started out good. You know, when you've been in a relationship for a few years and it's got bad, right? I think a lot of people stay in it because they're like, well, I've invested so much time, right? Like it's land or something like that. Like the longer you stay, maybe its share price will go up again. You know what I mean? Because people hate to think, imagine after we've been together 5 years, we break up, then I wasted my last 5 years. And people will stay longer and longer and longer just because they feel it's an investment. But it's not like a bank. It doesn't suddenly rise in share price, right? It doesn't, you can't call a bunch of plumbers, a bunch of painters to paint over it and it'll be fine, right? You can't call, like, I don't know, a personal trainer to train your partner to get them looking good again. You can't, once it goes bad, it takes a lot for it to get good again. So, hey, if any of you are in isolation with someone who you are not happy with, maybe now's the time to think to yourself, maybe we should break up. Don't do it now while you're in isolation, right? But the day that the lockdown is over, I think that's when you can say, okay, let's really part ways now because, you know, every day in lockdown, I've just wanted to get away from you. You know how people propose, you know, on their knees? I think that there should be a reverse proposal at the end of the relationship where you start kneeling and you stand up and you rip the ring off. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is at Mukhtar 1983 wanted a joke about panic. But look, this guy wrote in my Instagram that he wanted jokes about panic 11 times. He wrote panic, 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 again and again and again and again. And I realized this man is not just suggesting, he's actually panicking. He's in the middle of some serious panic right now, right? And I started thinking about panic, right? And this is what I've got to say. One thing, I'm glad I live in the UK, right? Because in the UK, people are panic buying, but what are they panic buying? They're panic buying toilet paper. They're panic buying cans of beans. They're panic buying sanitizer. America, people are panic buying guns. I've never been so glad to live in the UK. That is not something I want my friends to be panic buying because, you know, if things get worse, at least they're gonna shoot me, okay? And then I also started thinking about panic. I think that there is a panic countdown, right? I think every one of us is on a different panic countdown, right? What do I mean by this? Is that right now I can make all these jokes because I am not panicking, right? I'm okay. As I told you, I have enough savings for a few months, right? I have enough going on in my life that I'm okay right now. All of my friends and family are healthy so far, so I haven't really started to panic. I've had fear, but not legit panic. But everyone's on a countdown, right? I think my countdown is a 3-month countdown, right? If this keeps going, in 3 months from now, I'll be coming on. Actually, you know what? This is almost like a social experiment. You know, like maybe this whole corona thing is a bunch of scientists are experimenting on the effects of panic on the human brain. Because I think every one of us is going through this. And you're going to see that my panic will kick in around 3 months and the shows are going to change. So I'm going to be telling all these jokes. And then one day, instead of doing this little thing where I say, hey, by the way, please Go to PayPal, go to Ko-fi, go to Patreon, sponsor me, and I do it for 1 minute. You will know panic has to sit in when I spend half an hour of the show saying, please give me money, guys. Please give me money. Please give me money. You will know the panic has set in when I come on, and I'm not even telling jokes anymore. I'm just ranting. I'm like, isn't life shit? Isn't it shit? Isn't it terrible? You will know when I switch in comedic styles from Deliso Chaponda to Bill Hicks that I have started to hit the panic button, okay? Everyone's got a different panic countdown. Some people are 3 months. Some people are, if it goes on 10 months. Some people it was 1 day. Some people are already panicking, right? So if you're one of the people who has already been panicking, there are loads of resources available for you. You can check out a bunch of sites and, tell people, don't suffer in silence. Okay. This was all about mental health, by the way. So I just wanted to reiterate it. Don't suffer in silence. There are resources. Each country has different resources. Here in the UK, you can call the Samaritans. I think you can call the Samaritans anywhere in the world. Don't give up. Right? And now I'm going to end the show with an old joke. But before doing my old joke, let me look at the comments. Thank you all of you for sticking around. It's great that there is an audience. How about a joke about... Oh, okay, so I don't take suggestions on the live show because I actually write the jokes for a few hours every afternoon. If you want to suggest things, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, go to Instagram in the mornings and put suggestions underneath the image which I put up asking for suggestions. I don't look anywhere else because there are enough suggestions anyway over there. I don't look at inboxes. I don't look at these comments. I just look at those places. Okay? Excellent. Oh, you're Nigerian, but my ribbing of Nigeria is good. It's all in fun. It's because I love Nigerians. So I'm glad you're laughing. I'll look at 2 more comments and then we'll be off. Shar Kutishi has asked me to answer Michael on the drive-through worshipping. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about, but a few days ago, I did an episode where I talked about drive-through worshipping. Michael, if you want to know about the drive-through worshipping, go back through my history on YouTube and find the episode on faith. That is the episode where I dealt with drive-through worshipping. And finally, I will say, somebody said, what's this? Khalid Saeed said somebody wore panties as a mask. Well, I'm very glad they did. That's exactly the kind of woman I am looking for. I would like to meet her. So if you see her, give her my number. And Brian Binam Ashalu says, what will be my reaction if I catch COVID-19? I will write jokes about it and I will come on screen and I will tell you jokes while coughing because life must go on. I am young enough that hopefully if I get it, I shall recover. Maybe not, but if I die, you're going to get to watch it live on air, right? Because I'm going to perform until I drop. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Coronacast comedy show. Please, if you enjoyed the show, check out my comedy specials, which are on my YouTube channel, which is What the African Said and Blah Blah Blacklist. Also, if you have extra money, feel free to donate. If you don't have money, please just tell a friend, share this video. I have no time to do actual publicity, so you are my word of mouth. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow.